Good afternoon. I'm Brian Manning. Want to answer your questions about winning asylum in America. So, say hello. Let me know in the chat down in the comments what questions you have about winning asylum in the United States, because that's what we're here to do. I'm an asylum lawyer, so I used to be an asylum officer with the government. I worked for 11 years for the government's two main agencies for refugee and asylum matters, but now as a lawyer, well, my law firm, we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. That's what we do all day, every day. Look, we don't do immigration based on like family petitions. We don't do it based on employment. We don't do cases based on investment. None of that stuff. We're laser focused on asylum. It's asylum all day, every day. And I want to know what questions you have about winning asylum in America. So, hello, good morning, or no, not good morning. It's good afternoon for everyone. No, I guess our friends on the West Coast in California, it's still just before noon. Who we got from California? Sound off. Let me know if you're watching in California. Lots of followers, lots of members of this community of asylum seekers out in California, sunny California. All right, YouTube, good afternoon. LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. Hey, how are you guys? Good to see you. Good to see you over on TikTok. Thanks for joining us. Uh, Jonathan or my Nathan says hey. We got Brown on TikTok who says hi. Hello, glad to see you here. We got user 7864413. We got folks joining in on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Good afternoon. I'm Brian Manning. Used to be an asylum officer with the government, with USCIS, with the asylum office, but now I'm an asylum lawyer. And my law firm, it's called Political Asylum Lawyers. And we're based in Texas, but it doesn't really matter where we're based because we help immigrants all over the country. We help people all over the country. It doesn't matter where you are. We can help you anywhere in the United States. All right. Good afternoon. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Hey, YouTube. Good afternoon. All right. What questions do you have about winning asylum in the United States? All right. Let's go. Let's go to the questions. Um, is this why Jonathan or why Nathan wants to know on TikTok? Is asylum getting scheduled within 1 to 2 months in Virginia? Good question. The question is this: where in the United States are affirmative asylum interviews getting scheduled really quickly? So, look, you may have heard that for many people, interviews are getting scheduled pretty much right away, sometimes within a mere matter of weeks after you apply for asylum that you actually have your interview. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's not just in one particular asylum office or in one particular region of the United States. We are seeing this everywhere. The majority of people who apply right now for asylum are getting their interview. Well, I'm talking about right now with USCIS, not with the immigration courts, but for affirmative asylum cases with USCIS, the majority of people are getting their interview. I would say probably on average 2 months after applying. Sometimes it's just a few weeks. We've had clients for whom it's been less than a month, incredibly. Okay, which means you got to go, go, go. All right. When you submit that application, I hope that you're working with an asylum lawyer who is already working on on the rest of the paperwork in addition to the application. I hope they're working on the supporting documents like your declaration, your evidence. I hope they're writing a legal brief. I hope they're compiling and discussing in their legal brief the country conditions information that supports your case. And I hope they've got a plan ready to prepare you for the interview, because the practice, the preparation, that is the most important part of your entire case. Now, most immigration lawyers don't have a plan for this. They just say something like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll meet up about 15 minutes before the interview at the asylum office, and I'll tell you then, like, what to expect and what's going to happen. So it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. That is not fine. It's not sufficient. It's not okay. You need to practice intensively for your interview. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Asylum Answers Show. Hey, TikTok. So yeah, did you just apply, Jonathan, or why Nathan? I'm not sure which it is, but did you just apply with any? And you asked about Virginia, so I assume that you are with your case is going to be with the Arlington Asylum Office, and that is a pretty decent office. It's one of the better ones. It does not mean the approval rate is high, but it's higher than uh, a lot of other asylum offices. All right. All right. Uh, okay, so Le Musa Kovlai says, I want to know if someone hired you from New Jersey, how can you appear for their hearing in immigration? So, Lai, are you in immigration court or is your case at the asylum office? Let me know in the comments, Lai Musa. All right. So look, the question is this. So when someone hires my law firm to be their asylum lawyers, do we show up in person for their interviews or hearings, or how does that work? So look, for immigration court cases, we usually ask the judge to do it by video conference. We think that's best. Our clients tend to feel more comfortable doing their hearings from the comfort of their own home rather than in a sort of stuffy, intimidating court setting. So often the judges say yes, sometimes they say no. For immigration court, if the judge says that the client has to show up in person, we show up in person. We go in person, no matter where it is in the country. We have lawyers in different places, and we travel to do the hearings in court. For the asylum office, the default is that we represent people virtually. So you have the client, you as the applicant, you have to show up in person at the asylum office, but they allow lawyers to participate virtually. And that's like the default that we have in our contract with our clients for USCIS asylum cases, is that we're going to participate virtually by telephone or video conference in those interviews. However, once the interview is actually scheduled, if our client says, hey, I'd rather have you guys there in person, we check our schedule. And if they want us to come in person, great, we'd love to. There is an extra fee, like a travel fee on, in addition to like what was the base contract price for us to come in person. But we do it all the time. Yeah, we do it all the time. People sometimes just feel uncomfortable having the lawyer there in person. And so we do that when they want to do it. All right. Yeah, we've got lots of clients in New Jersey. Laie, or who was that? Musa. We have lots of clients in New Jersey and New York. We help tons of people there. All right. All right. What questions do you guys have about winning asylum in America? What's the best way to get a work permit as a student? F1 just came 1 year ago, says Carter. So the question is this. What's the best way to get a work permit if you're here as a student? Let's say you're here in F1 status, you've been here a while and you really want to be able to work legally. Is asylum a good route to do that? Well, look, it would be immigration fraud if you applied for asylum just so you can get a work permit. But if you really fear being harmed in your country, then yeah, it makes sense to talk with an asylum lawyer about whether it makes sense to apply for asylum. And it is true that that is a way to get a work permit. 150 days after applying for asylum, you're eligible to apply for your work permit. And it takes them about a little over a month to 2 months to actually adjudicate that application and then give it to you. So it's fairly quick, but look, you shouldn't apply for asylum just to get a work permit. You're only supposed to apply for asylum if you really fear being harmed in your country. So I think it bears talking with an asylum lawyer before you take any action, okay? Alrighty. Good afternoon. YouTube, we got Imran, we got Ghana. Hey, is it possible to request advance parole with pending asylum? Good question. The question is this. Can you get advance parole such that you can travel abroad and have reasonable assurance that you'll be let back into the United States while you've got a pending asylum case? And the answer is, for affirmative asylum cases, those with USCIS, yeah, it's possible. There's a little bit of risk in traveling, but it's pretty low risk. As long as you get this advance parole document approved, the risk is pretty low, as long as you don't go back to your country of origin from which you're seeking asylum. If you're in immigration court proceedings, no, you can't leave. You won't be allowed back in. You should not leave the country, even with advance parole, if you are in deportation proceedings in immigration court. All right. Nayeli Bustillo wants to know, when an asylum case is administratively closed, do I accrue unlawful presence? The question is this. Do you accrue unlawful presence when your asylum case is administratively closed in immigration court? And the answer to that is no. If your case is administratively closed in immigration court, you do not rack up or accrue unlawful presence, okay? Because your case is still alive, it's still pending, and you're still protected from unlawful presence. It's basically just kind of like a pause in your case. The judge is like, we're not going to schedule a hearing, basically, is what that means, to be in a state of administrative closure. But look, this is different when USCIS terminates a case. Sometimes they call it a closure. They say we have closed your case. That's different than an administrative closure. When USCIS closes your case, it's gone. It is terminated. It goes away. And then you would be accruing unlawful presence after USCIS closes out your case. All right. All right. All right. Imran asking about a travel banned country. I would not travel. Would not travel at all. Okay. Abroad. Christy wants to know on TikTok. Christy Choman says, I won my asylum 4 months ago. When should I apply for a green card? Oh, congratulations. That's excellent news. I'm really happy to hear that, Christy. The question is this: when should you apply for your green card after having won asylum? So it doesn't matter whether you won asylum through the asylum office or in immigration court. In either context, you should apply, in my opinion, right away, like the next day. I mean, okay, you don't have to do it the next day, but I mean, yeah, like very soon. Why? Here's how it works. USCIS cannot approve your green card application based on asylum until you have been physically present in the United States for 1 year after the date of your asylum grant. So that might make you ask, like, okay, then why would I want to apply before 1 year? Because by applying before 1 year, you're getting in the line. You're getting in sort of like the queue. Because right now it's taking a long time, something like, last I checked, 18 months for USCIS to actually pick up an application of this kind and look at it and make a decision. So if you apply now, like right after you win your asylum, 18 months from now, something like that, they'll pick it up and they'll look at it and they'll go, okay, looks good. Oh, wait, actually, no, this person they didn't show evidence that they've been in the United States for 1 year after winning asylum because they applied before they reached that 1 year mark. And so they'll do a request for evidence, RFE, request for evidence, where they send you a letter and they say, hey, we need you to send to us evidence that shows that you've been physically present in the US for 1 year, at least after winning asylum. And you do that. You comply, you send it in, and they grant your asylum. So basically, you're getting in the queue now, as where if you wait for that year and you apply then, well, you're just getting in the queue after that year. And from that point, you're going to have to wait 18 months or whatever the wait time is at that time. It may be less than the 18 months that it is now, or it could be even more. It could be 2 years, 2.5 years. So I do think it makes sense to apply shortly after you win asylum. All right. How user wants to know how long does it take to get the asylum-based green card after a medical RFE? It's impossible to predict. Sometimes that kind of thing is very quick, like a few weeks after you send it in, but it could be many weeks or months or even longer. I'm sorry, there's just no way to predict that. Okay. All right. Brown says, I missed my asylum interview, so I got a master hearing. Will I get arrested at court? So the question is this: are you at risk of getting arrested and detained at your immigration court hearing, your master calendar hearing, the first one, if you were referred to court after having missed your asylum interview at USCIS? So in this case, the person was scheduled for an interview at USCIS. They didn't show up. USCIS transferred their case to court or referred their case to court. So they're in deportation proceedings. And they're worried about getting detained. Look, the fact that you missed your asylum interview doesn't really have any bearing on this, on the question of what your risk level is for getting detained. At the moment, thanks to a court order, no one should be getting detained at immigration court, at least for the moment. Like when I say for the moment, I mean literally for the moment. That could change in the coming days. But there's a court order that basically stops those arrests for the moment. Most of them, not all of them, most of them. So look, at this moment, the risk is low. But that could change due to appeals and continuing litigation. So we don't know how that's going to be in a week or 2 or 3 or 6 months or a year. If you came to the United States on parole, like one of these humanitarian programs, what they call like the CHNV programs, and litigation reverses this most recent decision, then there's some risk of the arrest at court. But it doesn't have to do with the fact that you missed your asylum interview. It's just because they are, up until now, until this recent decision, they have been arresting and detaining a lot of those people in court. All right, can you get Ashika at 77 wants to know, can you get 2 decisions for asylum, 1 approval and referral notice to court? No, it's going to be one or the other. Or if you have status, it's going to be a notice of intent to deny and then a final denial. But no, you're not going to get a approval and a referral notice to court from USCIS. All right. All right. Oh, okay, Jonathan, I'm about to apply. Have we talked, Jonathan? Have you? Maybe we should talk about this before you apply. Look, if anyone wants to talk with us to see if we might be able to help you, then please schedule a consultation and do it now. There's no need to wait. You don't even need to wait till this show is over today. Literally go right now and open up a new browser tab and go to winasylum.com. WINASYOUM.com. Okay. Winasylum.com. WINASYOUM.com. Winasylum.com. Alrighty. We've got ABCDFYT says, if I reschedule my appointment, when should I submit the evidence for rescheduling the appointment? You mean evidence in support of your request to reschedule, like you missed an appointment, or it's scheduled and you can't go on that day because you've got some kind of emergency or something, and you're asking about, are you asking about evidence in support of your reschedule request, or are you asking about evidence for your underlying asylum case? Well, actually, you know what? It doesn't matter. Because in either event, now you should do it sooner rather than later. Okay, you shouldn't wait. You should do it now. Okay, that's what I think. A B C D F Y T. All right. Quadruple A says, "Hey Brian, if an asylum applicant is in valid status, like has valid status like F1, and USCIS denies the case, do they lose the chance to go before a judge? It seems like having status is not ideal." Then good question. The question is this: if you have legal status, immigration status, at the moment USCIS makes its negative decision, you're not sent to immigration court, right? So is that bad? Does that mean that you don't get a second chance? So is it better to just not have status at the moment USCIS makes a negative decision, because you might want to go to court so you get a second chance, right? I get that. I'm sympathetic to that way of thinking, and a lot of people think that way. A lot of people feel that way, and that's understandable and reasonable. I think though that no, I think it's best to not be in deportation proceedings. I think it's best to be protected from being put in immigration court. If you get put in immigration court, you're at real risk of getting a deportation order, which is, in my opinion, bad. So I get that line of thinking. Yeah, it's true that if you get a negative decision while you have status, you won't get a second chance. But I think it's better to not be in deportation proceedings. I think that's a bigger deal, a more important thing to account for, and I therefore think it's better if you can maintain status through your USCIS asylum decision time. All right. Nice. Nalia wants to know. Oh wow. Ashlika says, I received both. What can I do, sir? After I just said, no, you won't receive both. Both a referral notice and a asylum approval. Look, it was a mistake, Ashika. I can almost guarantee you that was a mistake of the asylum office to issue both of those things. Very interesting. And actually, Ashika, I've literally never seen that happen before. I've never heard of anyone getting both of those things. We're talking here about someone who got both, after their asylum interview with USCIS, got both an asylum approval, but also a referral notice saying, we're putting you in deportation proceedings and trying to deport you. You have to go to immigration court to defend yourself. That can only be a mistake that happened. Look, I'd start by reaching out to the asylum office and be like, this seems to be a mistake. Could you please work with ICE to cancel the notice to appear and get me out of deportation proceedings? I would start with that. And yeah, honestly, this is the kind of thing you might want to talk with a lawyer to get help with, because that's pretty weird and it's not normal, and it's a little bit odd and a little bit tricky. All right. Interesting. Detained after an ICE appointment, what's the outcome? David wants to know. Sometimes people who are detained are able to get out through what's called a bond, but that's tricky. That's hard. And there's a good chance that if you have an asylum case pending, that you'll just stay detained through your asylum decision. You'll have your immigration court proceedings while you're detained, and that's tough. It's harder to win. The approval rates are lower than for people who are not detained going through immigration court proceedings. So yeah, it's a very difficult position to be in terms of your case, but also just the fact that you're detained, which obviously is terrible for people. So yeah, that's, I hope it doesn't happen to you, and I'm sorry if you know someone to whom that has happened. Okay. Uh, Marco Polo. Oh wow, did you work at the U.S.? You worked at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, Marco Polo. I don't know if you know this, but I was a diplomat. Before I was a asylum lawyer, I was an asylum officer with USCIS. But before that, I was a diplomat with our foreign ministry, with the State Department. And so I've worked at several U.S. embassies and worked with what we at that time called LES, locally engaged staff, or before that they called them FSNs, right, Foreign Service Nationals. So I thank you for your service, Marco Polo. I worked with a lot of great local staff, and I know the sacrifices that they make, especially in a place like Iraq. So thank you for your service, Marco Polo. Um, does a delayed decision lean towards a denial, especially having worked at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq? Good question. The question, oh, Istanbul, thank you for sharing this live. Hey, everyone else, share this live. Would you mind sharing it? Just so that more folks can see it and possibly benefit from the things that we're talking about in this community. There's a lot of people out there that could probably stand to benefit from some of this. Thank you, Panache or Panache or Panache. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. Istanbul, Panache, you guys rock. Thank you for sharing this live. All right, back to Marco Polo's question. The question is this: does the fact that it's taking a long time to get your decision after your USCIS asylum interview indicate that it's going to be a denial, especially if you are coming from a country with a lot of security concerns, like Iraq, and you had this person who asked the question actually worked for the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. Look, in general, the fact that a decision takes a long time, no, it does not mean that it's going to be a denial. There's lots of reasons why there are delays in the officer concluding the case and issuing a decision. And usually, I would say in the vast majority of cases, it's not because there's a problem. It's not because there's a red flag or something that means that the person's likely going to get denied. Okay, so that's the good news. Look, for someone from Iraq, though, it may be due to security processing concerns that can make it take a long time. But even when that happens, even when the delay is due to additional security check type things that need to be done, it doesn't. That also does not necessarily mean that it's going to be denied. So I guess, look, I wouldn't worry about it. There's nothing that you can really do in terms of, or well, let me rephrase that. Worrying about it is not going to, it's not going to help your case, right? Yeah. So Marco Polo, I'm curious though, when did you apply for asylum? What month and year did you apply for asylum, Marco Polo? I'd be curious to hear it in the comments what month and year you applied for asylum. All right. So is it a bad thing to be called for a re-interview and told not to be alarmed? Uh, User 8737 wants to know. The question is this: is it a bad sign that you're getting called in for a second interview with USCIS or like a follow-up interview? Look, this has been happening with increasing frequency the last few months under the Trump administration. And there's really no way to tell ahead of time whether it's because of some reason that you should be worried about that indicates that there's a problem with your case. Sometimes it is. In some cases, it is information that has come to light that they think is negative and they want to ask you questions about. But very often, it's just the officer who did the interview messed up. They forgot to ask you some questions they needed to ask you, or their supervisor thinks they should have handled something differently. And so they're going to come and ask you some additional questions this time. Sometimes it just takes 10 minutes. Sometimes, well, you got to be prepared for anything. It could take 10 minutes or it could take all day. So you got to be prepared for anything, but try not to worry and just do your best and be honest and open and transparent, just like you hopefully were the first time. Okay. Oh, SARB or SARB says, I'm having my interview on Monday, I-589. Any best advice? Yeah, go to my YouTube channel, SARB. That's where I've got all my best stuff. Go to my YouTube channel and look for the playlists. And there's one of them that's asylum interviews. And I've got some really detailed tutorials and trainings about the asylum interview, like what kind of questions are going to be asked, what exactly happens on the day of the asylum interview, which will be really helpful for you to know about ahead of time, so it'll feel more familiar to you. tips for how to think about answering questions, stuff like that. That's going to be really helpful to you. So the YouTube channel is called Political Asylum Lawyers, and that's the name of my law firm as well, Political Asylum Lawyers. So if you just go to YouTube and search for Political Asylum Lawyers, you'll see my photo on the channel. Image and go to the tab that says the playlist that is Asylum Interview. Okay? Good luck. Good luck. Have confidence. Hopefully you've been preparing hard. I hope that you've been practicing, because look, practicing for your interview is the most important thing you can do. It's a little bit late now for us to be able to help you with the interview. But for those of you, actually, let me ask, is there anyone else who has an interview? We had somebody on TikTok that has an interview this Monday. So good luck. Good luck. Let me know in the comments. Anyone else have an interview already scheduled? I'm curious to hear. Anyone have an interview already scheduled? Anybody? Let's see. What do we got? Okay. Yep. We got Alex says, I have mine on February 1st. Alex, was that a result? You may have already said this yesterday or the day before, because I recognize you. Was that the result of a mandamus lawsuit? Because it's pretty unusual to have it scheduled several months out for if you applied recently. Anybody else got there? Yes, me, says Amigo. Amigo, when is yours? I think you might have said this the other day as well, but I forgot. When is it? When is yours? Anybody else got their interview already scheduled? All right. Nice. So, okay, October 22nd. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's perfect. You got it. You have enough time. You have enough time to prepare. Look, for those, oh no, Alex says no, it was regular schedule. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've seen one scheduled that far out for regular scheduling. Look, for those of you who have an interview scheduled, I think you really need to see this. I think anyone who has applied for asylum or is interested in applying for asylum can definitely benefit from this, what I'm about to show you. This new service that we're offering, and it's interview preparation. Okay. Oh, nice. On YouTube, we've got someone else who doesn't have a handle, a name. This is my interview's on Tuesday, September 9th. So just a few days from now. Awesome. That's great. So look, go to those of you that have an interview scheduled, or actually everyone I think should go to this webpage, asylumprep.com, because I put together something special, something that is new, that is a service that we just recently started offering, which is preparation, the asylum interview preparation. There's a lot of people that want help. They want to be as prepared as possible, and have the strongest case as possible, but they don't have either the funds or the time to hire a law firm from like sort of beginning to end of their case. And I was trying to think about, okay, well, what could we do for people that are like that don't have either the funds or the time to hire us for full scale representation? This is what I came up with. It's called the mock asylum interview experience. And it's basically the preparation that we do for our clients, but it's offered now as a standalone service. So it costs a fraction of what it would cost to hire us for full scale representation. And but it's all our best stuff. And it's the most important part of any representation. The preparation for your interview is the most important part of your entire case. Okay. It's way more important than what you said in your application. It's way more important than what you say in your declaration. It's way more important than your evidence. It's more important than a legal brief that your lawyer writes, hopefully. It's way more important than having a lawyer represent you during the interview. Your testimony, what you say on the day of your interview, is the most important thing by far, which means that your practice and preparation for that testimony is the number one thing that you can do to maximize your chances for asylum success. Okay. If you want to hear about this special package that I put together, and this one, what you're going to see on asylumprep.com, this is like for a limited time. This is not going to be around forever. Check out this package. There's a long video at the top that explains it, and then below there's a very, very long web page where I explain all about this package, about what we call the mock asylum interview experience, or for short, the experience. Okay. All right. September 16th, says Alex Dubovic. My interview's on September 16th, waiting over 8.5 years. Any updated tips? Well, Alex, I hope you've seen my YouTube channel. You're on YouTube, so I hope you've seen the playlist of asylum interview trainings. Look, excuse me. Look, Alex, this is perfect for you. there is just enough time. Alex, we've got time to do this training, to do the mock interview with us, plus some other things that you're going to see when you go to asylumprep.com. As long as you schedule the consultation like today or tomorrow and you do the consultation with us on Monday, I think Tuesday at the latest, we would have time to get this done with you. Okay, Alex? But you got to act now. Yeah, Alex, I think you're going to like this. Go to asylumprep.com. Okay. Alex, will you go there? Alex says, I watched them all. Nice. Nice. That's what I'm talking about. Alex is a true fan, a true believer in the power of preparation. Alex says they've watched all of our videos on YouTube, and there's a lot. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. So I appreciate you, and I applaud you for your determination and taking this so seriously. All right, Alex. If you look, you're obviously someone who is serious about trying to do everything possible to win your case. Go to asylumprep.com. You're going to like this. Okay. All right. Let's go to the questions. Nice. You're welcome. ABCDYT. Karam Dolger says, hi, Brian. I did not hire you, but I won my case using your knowledge, even though I hired another attorney. Really appreciate you. I won my case, but still watching you to learn new things. Awesome. Congratulations, Karam. Thank you for mentioning that. Let's see. Is there any difference in the outcome of denial between if somebody filed for asylum while having F1 status first and they got out F1 first, then filed asylum regarding transfer to court? I'm not sure I understand the question. Asterisk Alliance. I didn't follow that. Can you ask it in a different way? Maybe rephrase it. Have you handled asylum cases for Iranian applicants, particularly religious-based claims? It seems many lawyers aren't very familiar with these types of cases. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've handled lots of them. We know these cases very well. AAAA. Yeah, we've handled these. Look, I'm pretty sure, look, before I say this, let me preface by saying past performance or past results does not guarantee future results, okay? I'm pretty sure we've won every single Iranian case that we've had. I'm pretty sure, off the top of my head. But you should know that people do lose, including religious-based claims, including legitimate claims where someone has converted from Islam or renounced Islam or something, and they should win asylum. I promise you those cases can still be lost, and they are still lost. But yeah, we've handled a lot of those. We know those very well. I'm pretty sure we've won all of them. I don't think we've ever had an Iranian case that we've lost. Pretty sure. So we should talk. We know this well. Go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation though, so we can really make sure we got to talk to you, get to know you, understand your situation, understand your case, and tell you whether we think we can help you. If we think that we can help you, we're going to explain how. Like, we're going to go into a lot of detail about exactly what we'll do. We're going to tell you about what we call our asylum action plan, which is our 3-part strategy for building the strongest case possible, for building and presenting the strongest case possible. All right. Okay. Interesting question. Khan says, interview is scheduled after filing mandamus. Does USCIS also have to issue a decision within a time frame under the mandamus order? Or does the lawsuit only ensure that the interview takes place? Very good question. The question is this. When you file a mandamus lawsuit to force your interview, and it works, you get the interview. Well, does that lawsuit also ensure that you actually get the decision within a certain amount of time after the interview? Or does the forcing mechanism only apply to assure that you get the interview but not affect the decision timing? It depends on how your lawyer handles it. Some lawyers don't think about this. They don't think about the decision aspect. They just think, oh, we're just going to get the interview. But that is short-sighted, because sometimes you get the interview, but then the decision could be months or even years after the interview. So what we do in my law firm when we file a mandamus lawsuit is, we negotiate with the government, right? And when they schedule the client's interview, they say, okay, Brian, will you guys pause the law, or excuse me, they say, will you guys dismiss the lawsuit now that we gave the interview notice, the interview's coming up? You got what you wanted. Will you dismiss it, make the lawsuit go away? And we say, nope, not yet. We'll agree to pause it for a certain number of days. We won't dismiss it. We don't agree to dismiss it. We'll pause it. We'll put it on hold, but it still exists and it's only paused for a certain number of days. And the reason is exactly this, is because we want to keep the pressure on to get not just the interview, but to also get the decision quickly after the interview. So we keep the lawsuit active. Not all lawyers do that. Sometimes they'll just dismiss it after they get the interview, and then there's no pressure on the government to produce the decision within a reasonable time frame after the interview. But we don't agree to dismiss the lawsuit until you get that decision in your hand. And because of that, our clients usually get the decision very quickly after the interview, where we've gotten the interview through mandamus. Usually it's within 2 or 3 or 4 weeks after the interview. Okay, so it's quite quick. All right, Kusai Horiz wants to know, who's making the final call on your application, the supervisor or the officer? Good question. The question is this. So who actually makes the decision in your asylum case with USCIS? Is it the asylum officer who interviewed you, or is it like their supervisor, their boss? So look, technically it's the supervisor's signature that goes on the decision, but really it's the officer. Look, the officer, after your interview, they write what they call an assessment, where they explain, they make a decision, and then they explain their reasoning and try to like sort of justify it based on the facts of your case. And the supervisor then has to approve it. But the supervisors are told that, look, you need to like say yes and approve it, unless it's the officer's decision is just not legally defensible, like it's just like totally legally wrong. Usually the supervisors just defer to the officer. They rarely push back. It's true that if the supervisor is like, no, this is just legally wrong, I can't sign off on that, then they might get the officer to change their mind, but the officer doesn't have to. They can just say, no, I don't agree with that. And then the supervisor can just like assign the case to someone else, to another officer, to make a decision, hoping that they get the decision that the supervisor wants. But look, it's kind of like both of them are involved in the decision, but really, I mean, it's like 98%. It's the officer who interviewed you. That's the person you need to convince that you meet all the asylum eligibility requirements. On YouTube, we got this question. Hey, Brian, can a pic of you participating in a pride event be used as evidence of your protected ground? Good question. The question is this. Can pictures of you participating in a pride event be used as evidence that you possess protected characteristic? In this case, look, we're talking about membership in a particular social group, and that social group is what the government, or at least USCIS, calls sexual minorities. Basically anyone who's like not straight, but this also can cover like gender orientation, sexual identity stuff. Yes, the answer is yes. Like you have to convince the officer that you're, like, let's say you're gay. You have to convince the officer that you're gay, that that's the protected characteristic that you possess. And it is weird. It's messed up. You shouldn't have to, prove to them that you're gay, but like you do. That's just the reality of the situation. To get them to grant you asylum, you do have to convince them of that. And ways that you do that are they want you to be able to talk about your characteristic, in this case, the fact that you're gay, in a fluent way, in the way that someone who really has had that sort of whole life experience would be expected to talk about. But also, having photos of you at like a pride event, or at like what looks to clearly be a gay bar, can help. Having text messages or SMS or chat from, Grindr or messages on Grindr or whatever, or like text messages with people of the same sex that are flirtatious or romantic in nature can help as well. So it's just basically anything you can think of that makes it look like, this person really is, is living a lifestyle that, at least in popular culture, we would associate with like, oh, that's what a gay person does, which I know is very crass to say, but that's what you have to do to convince the officer that you possess this protected characteristic. All right. Alex says, sure, I'll book a consultation with you. Thank you. Awesome. Alex, go to, you're the kind of person you're going to love this, and you're going to benefit from this big time. Look, it's asylumprep.com. I'm putting it on the screen now, Alex, but I'm going to type it in the chat too. Asylum interview training, asylumprep.com. Typing it now. If you can't tell, asylum interview training, asylumprep.com. you're gonna like this, Alex, because look, it's great to watch our videos, but it's a different thing. It's a different thing to actually go through a mock interview. The mock interview is the key. It's the most important thing. Our clients constantly tell us that the mock interview that we did with them was the most important thing. That it's what really helped them to win their case. It was the key to their success. Okay, and that's what is at the core of this the mock asylum interview experience, which you can find all about at asylumprep.com. Tap on the screen, everyone, says saucepan on TikTok. What does that mean? What does that mean, saucepan? I have no idea. Am I just like an old guy who? Oh, follow him, everyone. You say up above. Thanks. Yes, I agree with saucepan, whoever that is. Follow me, everyone. All right. What questions? Asylumprep.com to learn about the mock asylum interview experience. All right. We've got questions. You've got questions. I got answers. Juan Carlos dice que tenemos la entrevista en Arlington, Virginia. My son took his fingerprints in Miami when he was 12 and now he's 21, and we have our interview soon. Does he need new fingerprints? Yeah, I think so. When you turn 14, yeah, I think so. They'll let almost certainly, Juan Carlos, they'll let the interview proceed. Like even if they don't schedule biometrics for him before. Look, I would send an email to the asylum office. I would send an email to the asylum office and be like, in Virginia, and be like, hey, exactly what you just said on the screen in this chat. Does he need to have fingerprints? If so, could you schedule a biometrics appointment for us so that he can hopefully get it done ahead of time? But if not, it's okay. They'll almost certainly let the interview go forward, but they just won't issue a decision until he does it. And on the day of the interview, they can be like, okay, we'll schedule biometrics for him. Okay. Juan Carlos, when is your interview? Is it very soon? Well, you said soon. I wonder what month it's in. Juan Carlos, go to asylumprep.com, or I don't know if you speak Spanish, but if you want to see it in Spanish, you can go to entrevistadeasilo.com. Otra vez, entrevistadeasilo.com para esta información sobre esta experiencia de entrevista similar de asilo. Okay. Nasir says, hello, sir. Hello, Nasir. Glad to have you on here. He says, hello, I'm gay from Afghanistan and I have a threat into my home country. Help me, sir. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that you're in this difficult spot. Nasir, are you in the United States right now? If you're in the United States and you haven't yet applied for asylum, we should talk. We should talk about the prospect of asylum. All right. But we're only able to help people who are already in the United States this year. All right. All right. You're welcome, Alex. Alex, where are you from? Alexander Dubovic. Sounds Slavic. I'm a Slavophile, Alex. I studied in Russia 3 times, minored in Russian language and art and literature, and when I was a diplomat, I was in like South Central, Southeast Europe, in Croatia for a couple of years, and Bulgaria for a couple of years. Love that part of the world. Love Eastern Europe and South Central Europe. I love it. All right. What do we got? Derek says, I came on a J1 visa. Oh, Russia, what? Привет, Alex. Как дела? Раньше говорил по-русски. Чуть-чуть, немножко. Сейчас, к сожалению, нет. Забыл все, к сожалению. But I do have one, Alex, I have it's gonna be hard to find, but I have a short on a YouTube short on YouTube where I'm speaking Russian, but like I had the phone, I Google translated it, and I had the phone, I would just like memorize one sentence at a time and like film it and say it, and then I would pause it, and then I would like memorize the next sentence and do it again. But when you watch the video, I look really fluent. But I used to speak some, but I studied other languages after that, and I was never fluent in Russian. I was fluent in other languages I studied, but not Russian. But after Russian, I studied other Slavic languages, Croatian and Bulgarian. And so the background in Russian helped a lot with those. Bulgarian was basically like easy Russian. It's like very similar, but like no cases. It's like easy Russian, basically. All right. Okay. Darius says, I came to the US on a J1 visa from Italy. I'm from a third world country citizen. I traveled to the UK before as well. How can this complicate my case? Do you have any tips to better prepare? I got lots of tips to prepare. On YouTube, go look for my playlist for Asylum interview playlist. Look, the fact that you came, the question is this: will the fact that you were previously in other countries before coming to the United States, like maybe in Europe or somewhere else like that, will that make it harder for you to get asylum in the United States? I'm talking about coming from, a country where you're persecuted and then where you fear going back, but then before coming to the United States, you were first in some other country like Italy, UK, whatever. It all depends on your immigration status there. If you had permanent immigration status there, or what they call an offer to get permanent residency there, yeah, that would be a problem. That would implicate, it would raise what's called the firm resettlement bar, which makes it tricky to win asylum. Not impossible. There are like exceptions around it, but it makes it very hard. Okay. So you should definitely talk with an asylum lawyer if you had any kind of status in another country before coming here that either was or could even possibly be characterized as like permanent looking. Okay. Soulful Journey says, I had my asylum interview last Thursday. Good. The interview is smooth overall. Good. But he asked me to submit one of my evidence in hard copy, the original version from back home. Do you think it's going well? It doesn't, there's no way to know. The fact that they, it seemed like it went well. I mean, that's good. It's better than it feeling like it went very badly. But the fact that it seemed like it went well doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. Often it's like, oh, the officer was pretty friendly and like it seemed to go okay, but people still lose. The fact also they asked for an original of something evidence doesn't really tell us anything good or bad. It doesn't really, it doesn't tell us anything. So, but fingers crossed. All right. All right. Alex says, your Russian is better than my English. Alex, I studied 3 times in St. Petersburg. I lived on, where did I live? I forgot the metro that I lived by. I can't remember it right now. Near Petropavlovsky Krepost, near there in St. Petersburg. And I studied at IMOP, Institut Международных образовательных программов on Grozhansky Prospect. I love St. Petersburg. Great city. Great city. All right. Look, that's it for today. Gotta go. But it was great to be on and see all you guys here on a Saturday. And if you want to talk with us, we'd love to talk with you. Go right now, schedule this consultation at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, so that we can see if we think we might be able to help you. If so, we're gonna talk all about it and give you lots of details. Sajid on TikTok says, one of the best lawyers I've ever seen. Thank you, Brian. Super kind of you. Thank you, Sajid, for saying that. Very nice of you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Lovely. Well, with that lovely send off, we'll end it there. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, great weekend, and as always, it really is a pleasure and honor to support you in your asylum journey. Bye, guys. Take care.